Hi, I'm Bill McLaughlin, Editor-in-Chief of Furniture Today. Welcome to this week's edition of FTTV Friday. We're here at the Furniture Today and AHFA Logistics Workshop, where we're going to be addressing many of the key logistical issues that are facing our industry. We've also talked to some folks here on the floor to get their view on what are the critically important issues that will be facing the industry in the coming year.
In terms of the supply chain, what would you say is the most critical issue or issues facing the industry today?
We've got a lot of issues. Primarily, I think the number one issue that's on everybody's mind is the West Coast. The impact of the labor negotiations, ILW issues, chassis issues, trucking issues on the East Coast, West Coast. Everywhere you look, there's problems. So there's choke points throughout the supply chain that we need to look at. They're very serious problems that are going to take us a while to work out, with all the chassis leasing problems and mismanagement of the chassis leasing arrangements that have taken place. And clearly, there's going to be some long-term impacts of the ILW negotiations. We're not out of the dark there. There's going to be some fallout from this negotiation.
Well, how do we start addressing some of these issues?
First and foremost, I think we've got to get trucker capacity back into the market. Drivers have left the market. Drivers left the market because they were mistreated. They were not paid properly. Wait times were up. The other thing that we're going to have to look at long-term or short-term is what's going to be the fallout from the chassis agreement and the ILW negotiation. Is it legal? Are they going to be able to force the M&R to those chassis necessarily onto the port when the terminal operators don't own them? So there's a lot of questions about how this is going to play out in terms of managing the chassis moving forward. Chassis issues are the number one concern in the supply chain, and drayage capacity is another major concern.
The biggest issues from my perspective, because I'm a retailer, is lack of drivers and not having enough drivers. You have a constant turnover, a very high turnover rate in the industry. So as a result, we don't have skilled drivers to do home delivery. And the drivers who we do have to get paid more. So as a result, prices are going up for us as a retailer, and ultimately prices go up for the consumer.
So how do we start addressing this?
I think more training, getting younger people more excited about doing these jobs.
Well, I think our most critical does reside with the truck driver, because ultimately everything's going to be delivered by a diesel engine, which means it's going to be driven by a truck and a driver rather. And we can have vessels moving port to port, but we're going to run into a driver shortage as this generation begins to retire, and we're seeing a very huge loss in drivers coming into the industry.
Well, what do we do to address this?
Well, I know our community college in our county, Caldwell Community College, is working on that. They have an incredible driver program that we're trying to recruit more people to come into the industry. It's going to be a struggle to try to make up that deficit that's going to retire on us in this next generation, I'm afraid. But those are probably some of the best things we can do, as well as marketing the truck driving career. It's a great job. It's a very stable job because obviously there's a demand.
Well, it has to be infrastructure, and not just port infrastructure of rails, infrastructure of roads. Long before the recent port crisis, we were seeing problems getting containers in and out of New York, getting containers in and out of Savannah, getting containers in and out of LA. Not just ports, not just strike related, just pure infrastructure issues. Not enough capacity on the roads and on the rails to get containers moving through the ports.
So how do we go about tackling these issues?
Well, that's the $64 million question, isn't it? If I had that answer, I wouldn't be at the logistics conference. I'm here to have you tell me that.
Fair enough. All right, thank you.